Welcome to the data visualization project CircleGraph video. In this video, I will show you how to make your circle graph. Remember, circle graphs are graphs where you compare parts of a whole so you can see the percentage that any given part takes of that whole. So here you'll need three steps. Number one, you're going to need to get your files, and you're going to need to make a copy of the .py file. You're going to need to get data from the Excel sheet, so you won't have to actually manipulate anything in Excel. You'll just have to get some data from it, and then finally you'll edit the Python code. So let's start with step number one, get your files. What you'll need to do is open a tab where you go to drive.google.com, and once you go to drive.google.com, find your 8th grade math folder. And then inside that, you should have your data visualization zip file. What we'll do is go ahead and two-finger click on it and download it. And that will download the file. It might download it in the browser. Otherwise, it will download it to your downloads folder. If you find it in the downloads folder, you'll notice that it's just a zip file. So we have to unzip it by clicking on it. And that should open up your Finder. Some of you will see that the Finder view looks like this, meaning like it's already opened in the file. That's fine. If you just click this back button, you'll see it. But ultimately, you want to get to a view where you can see the folder as well as the contents. So I'm done with step number one. I've got my files. Actually, no, I need to make a copy of the .py file. So let's go ahead and find the .py file for the circle graph, and I'll make a copy of it. So two-finger click on it. I will duplicate it, and then I'm going to two-finger click on this copy, and I will rename it, and I'll put last name, change the last name, circle graph, and I'll get rid of the word copy. So it's just going to say umin_circlegraph.py. All right. Now you might be wondering, like, why do we leave this in here? Well, in case something goes wrong with this file, at least we can duplicate it again and then make a new one. So I've got this circlegraph.py to work with. I'm done with step one now. Step two, get data from the Excel sheet. So I'll go ahead and open up my data visualization options. And what I want to do is I want to get my data from here so that I can make my pie graph, right? So you'll have to think through what information you'll actually need, or what information will make sense to make a pie graph about. Right now, I'm just going to grab data from 2018 about the number of a representation of different ethnicities in children's literature. And so here's African American, here's First Nations, here's Asian Pacific Islander, and here's Latinx. And then I can subtract those numbers from this number of books received to find out what's left of the Caucasian number. And so now I've got all of these are parts of the whole. Okay, so that's how I can find my number. So essentially, I'm done. I know the data that I want from my Excel sheet. I can now move on to my Python code. Again, yours is going to be different. It depends on what story you're going to tell. You could get data from anywhere to write or to create a pie graph from. I just chose to get it from here. All right, let's go ahead and edit our Python code. Well, in our Finder, you'll see that our Python code is right here, but I don't want to click on it from right here. It may open up a program called Sublime, which is not the way I want to get there. The way I want to get to this Python file is I want to do a command spacebar, and I want to type in the word terminal, and I will open my terminal. And terminal is a place where I can write some commands and get files and do a variety of different things. In terminal right here, I will type in the word IDLE3, 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 and hit enter. When I hit enter for idle3, it's going to open up Python. At this point, I can open up that Excel or that .py file. I'll go ahead and click File, Open, and I will find my folder under Downloads, and there it is here, and I will find my CircleGraph file, and I'll open it up. This is the template that you will use to create your visualization. So anytime you see your job, you need to do something, right? But everything else that's in red is just what's called a comment. It's just information of what these lines will do. So it says your job, click File, save as last name underscore CircleGraph. We already did that. And it says make sure you've changed the file name before you do any work below. Okay, I've already done that. This is the template file you will use to create your visualization and the libraries you will need. So the code is already written so that you have the functionality in here. All right, then it says this line inputs all the names of the parts. Okay, so your job is to change the names of the parts. So the names of the parts for me were African American, American Indian, Asian Pacific Islander, and Latinx, and Caucasian. So I'm going to put in African American, American Indian. I want to make sure that it's inside these quotation marks. Asian Pacific Islander. Okay, now I need to add another one. I'll put a comma and two quotations. This is going to be Latinx. And the last one is Caucasian. Okay, so those are the names of all the parts of my graph. All right, then it says this line takes the values of the parts. If you need to add more, separate them by a comma. So it says your job, add in the values of the parts. So the values have to go in the order that you put in the name. So I got to first do African American, American Indian, Asian Pacific Islander, Latinx, and Caucasian. So I'll go ahead, and I don't need to put quotation marks around them. So African American was 405. American Indian was 55. Asian Pacific Islander was 314. Latinx was 249. And these were all parts of the whole, so I want to find out what was left of the Caucasian. So I'm going to do, it says 3653 books received. So 3653 minus 405 for the African American, minus 55, minus 314, minus 249. So it says 2,630 was the amount for Caucasian. So 2,630. Again, your numbers are going to be different depending on the data story you're telling. All right, it says here, these lines create the pie chart and then label the chart. So this is just the code. I don't actually have to do anything. And then lastly, it says this line creates a title for your circle graph. So I'll put minority represent, actually I'll just put ethnic representation in children's literature. And you'll notice that this went black. It's if you put a single point in there, it'll turn that black. So I'm going to put a double one on the ends. Oops. There we go. So now everything's in green, ethnic representation in children's literature, and I am done. So I can click File, Save. And the way that I run a Python file is I click Run, and I click Run Module, and this should take my data and then spit out a circle graph for me. So now I have ethnic representation in children's literature, and then I've got my percentages, and it's given me a nice graph. I can go ahead and screenshot it and then I can submit it whichever way Ms. Shore wants me to submit it, whether it's through email or some other way, but I am now done with my circle graph.